Greetings, all! Today, we will be examining the relatively rare Fairy-type Pokemon Snubbull and its rare evolution Granbull, collectively known as the Fairy Pokémon. Though they might be incredibly intimidating and fierce in appearance, the members of the Snubbull family are fun creatures to have around as pets and can more than make the day of anyone that cares to play with them. Snubbull have small pink-furred canine bodies with a short and stocky build, walking on their hind legs with ease, with their beige three-toed feet and pink markings in the center, while grasping objects with their small front limbs. They have a series of blue polka dots on their main torso, with a ring of blue fur around their short neck, and they have a series of ear flaps on the sides of their head with black stripes at the end. Their black eyes are often used in a menacing stare, complementing their small black noses and their small mouth, which features a pair of protruding lower canines to complete their awkward look. Their evolved form, Granbull, have purple furred bodies with the same general body form, though their front paws now have 3 toes as well, and their ear flaps have fused into a single set with no color markings on them. Their neck and front paws are decorated with a series of black rings, their neck ring having silver studs on it, and their lower canines have been replaced with a pair of fang-like extensions of their lower jaw, providing them a terrifying appearance that belittles their kind natures. The members of the Snubbull family, who show a skewed gender ratio of 3:1 in favor of females, are practice and contradiction, and particularly referencing their looks, attitude, and true behavior. These creatures start out at a young age with access to the scary face technique, and this is perfectly reflected in their appearance, as these beasts are all about intimidation in the wild, and captivity equally. While they might have colorful fur colors and patterns to them, these creatures look to be no joke, as their powerful jaws and fangs make them a terrifying sight to others, and they will often unleash a loud, menacing growl to anything that confronts them, doing their best to scare away those that get too close to them. These canines use this as their main line of defense against others because, as it turns out, though these animal morphs might come off as incredibly dangerous, they're usually all bark and no bite, as they're actually quite timid and would rather enjoy being able to play with others than have to fight them in any way. In fact, these creatures are so skittish that if their bluff is called, they will retreat and have been known to be bullied by other canine Pokemon as a result. Thankfully, if they have to, these beasts do have considerable jaw strength even at a young age, and are some of the few Pokemon that have access to the elemental biting attacks straight from birth, so they definitely have strong versatility going for them. They are also equally popular as pets because of the contradiction in their appearance and actual nature, being seen as fun creatures to play with and take care of, even if they might not always get along with other Pokemon. This general contradiction is perfectly reflected in their abilities, as while these creatures can have access to the Intimidate ability as a base ability, and the Rattled ability as a hidden ability if they're particularly skittish, there is some slight difference, for Snubbull are fearful enough of others they can also have Run Away as a base ability, while Granbull can be so panicky that they can instead have access to Quick Feet as a base ability. In looking at their stats, it can be seen that Granbull, as menacing as they might look, are actually quite fragile and have weak defenses, access to no form of special attack, and use of said power naturally, and are quite slow because of their ponderous form, so most of their base stats are below average for a fully evolved Fairy-type Pokemon. However, they do have a considerable amount of stamina to them, and their physical strength is surprisingly high because of their powerful lower jaws, so at the very least, their base HP and attack stats are above average for a fully evolved Pokemon of their type, allowing them to make good use of the powerful physical attacks they do gain access to naturally. As noted before, while Snubbull tend to use their forms to try and intimidate others as much as possible, they are actually fairly harmless for the most part and prefer to play over fight. In fact, when they do manage to scare away other wild Pokemon, they tend to become quite sad, as they usually just want someone that they can play with. Generally sleeping up to 12 hours a day, these canines love to frolic and play with humans and Pokemon alike, and they have become extremely popular among women as a result, oftentimes doting on them just like any other pet dog, even if they technically are still fairies and merely have a very dog-like form to their biology. This also feeds into how they behave when they are scared, as these beasts are actually quite cowardly and will flee from the first sight of trouble or if their intimidation tactics do not go over as well as they might like them to. Despite the uneasiness that can be generated in all those that interact with them initially, these kind and affectionate creatures grow close to others very easily and thus make perfect pets to have around for just about any lifestyle, so long as one is able to keep up with them and make sure they get plenty of love and care to help them grow and mature properly, though it is noted that they take affection readily and can thus be easy to spoil if you are not careful. Compared to the pre-evolved form, Granbull are even more skittish and are so easily frightened that they often have to be kept close to trainers and owners in order to make sure they don't start crying or become too nervous around strangers, making them fairly poor choices for watchdogs. Unlike Snubbull though, while these creatures are incredibly timid and are more likely to turn tail and run away when presented with a dangerous challenge than actually fight, they can actually be a severe threat in these cases. This is mainly because if they are scared, they will often defend themselves by flailing about wildly, which is enough of a threat that they can get access to the outrage attack later in life or early on with a bit of artificial help, and combined with their surprisingly high physical attack power, makes them a severe threat to anything and anyone that gets caught in a flailing fit of theirs. Aside from this, the most noteworthy aspect of their biology is their massive lower jaw, which is so heavy compared to the rest of their skull that their heads must be tilted upwards when walking for balance to keep them from falling, as their heavy jaw pulls it downwards constantly, and the hole in their skull where their spine connects to their head is actually tilted and enlarged so they can walk around with their back of their skull, taking the brunt of the applied pressure from this tilt instead of their spine to prevent major health problems. Instead of teeth, these creatures have a pair of bony extensions of their jaw covered in a hard enamel-like substance that they use as a last resort to bite others with if their attacks are failing or they otherwise are badly startled or enraged, and their bite is incredibly powerful, these extensions acting like railroad spikes that can tear through soft flesh and crush bone easily. The sight of them alone is usually enough to scare off most other Pokemon, and in order to effectively use their jaw, they have to throw their head back to clamp it shut, so it is rare that an opponent will have to worry about them, but they nonetheless make these beasts a severe threat when angered, and should thus be watched for carefully, as while there is a bit of a predictable wind-up to their biting attacks, they can nonetheless inflict grievous wounds, and ultimately make these otherwise timid canines a force to be feared in close-quarters brawls. Though their looks might say one thing and their behavior another, the members of the Snubbull family are adorable creatures that can definitely give others a nasty bite if they don't watch their actions. They might crave attention and care more for play than the thrill of battle, but that can only make these creatures that much easier to love and appreciate in the long run, and definitely great pets for families to work with. Just do yourself a favor and do your best not to make them angry or otherwise force them to put their true power to work. Otherwise, if you're on the receiving end of their wrath, you might find yourself taking a needed trip to the hospital, whether it's just to get some bandages from a small bite, or to have your arm surgically repaired after getting pierced, crushed, and possibly even removed by the terrifying jaw strength of these monstrous fairies. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description.
Yeah, no.
With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.